welcome in Bills Mafia. Welcome back to another edition of the Red, White, and Ruthless here on Nickel City Mafia. And our slogan is, our family business is football. Joining me today is my good buddy and a fellow Bills Mafia member, someone who nobody is cooler than, Mr. Shawn Kula. Shawn, how are you today, buddy?
Doing great, my friend. Ready to watch some football tomorrow. Hopefully it's not a repeat of last week and we can actually enjoy this week.
So I got to ask you this question because a couple of viewers have already asked about it. The shades, is that going to be a new thing going on the Red, White, and Ruthless shows? Or is that just something that you're doing because you're trying to black out everybody that's in the black and silver?
Maybe. Kind of just like I had a plan for that one night and then we lost. And then I was like, they were sitting here. I'm like, you know what? Why not once in a while do it? Could be a new thing, that the loser with the shades indoors.
So I thought it was more of like a spinoff of that Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, where Amber Heard, or Johnny Depp actually said it. He said that you'll never see my eyes ever again. So maybe I thought that you're just a little upset with the Bills and how they played last week, and you're thinking that maybe they shouldn't see your eyes until they get a win.
That's right. That's a good point. The shades stay on until the bill. Well, until it gets bothers my eyes and the inside, but they're not going to see my eyes until they get a freaking win.
That sounds good. I understand that metaphor, and hey, hopefully it brings us good luck this week. But we have a jam-packed show that we're going to have for you guys today. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia, as well as the Red, White, and Bills and Go Bills podcast. All of us are combining to bring you all the best shows that you can have for the Bills Mafia. We do shows Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, pretty much every day of the week, and then some. I mean, it's just every day that you could possibly imagine. There's going to be new shows that are going to be on the Nickel City Mafia as well, such as a new Sabres show. We also have the PGA and Live tours that we're covering as well. And then we also have a fantasy show that has guys like, it's Tommy that does the show, correct? I thought it was Tommy. So I want to say it's Tommy. If I get it wrong,
I don't know everybody
as well. So I do apologize. I'm trying to remember names, but I try to remember the names. If I get it wrong, Mike Fortin will hit you up in the chat as well. We got a couple of guests already in the chat. Real quick, saying quick hello to Tom, who says evening, gents. And then we also have Mike Fortin in the chat as well, saying always good to see you, boys. And then Mike also said it's Chris and Jeremy. I do apologize. I get the shows all mixed up, but it is what it is. But the Chris and Jeremy from the fantasy show, tune into them as well. But today we're going to talk all about the Buffalo Bills and the Las Vegas Raiders matchup today. And the biggest things I want to get to in this matchup is we're going to start with the Bills on defense, because I don't want to go into the Josh Allen train and talking about him too early in the show. That is something that the national media has made a point to talk about. And I want to pump the brakes a little bit on that and focus on some of the bigger picture things that we need to focus on for the Buffalo Bills. So, Shawn, I want to talk to you, and I want you to give your perspective to the viewers about how the Bills can fix that run defense that we saw last week that gave up over 170 yards against the New York Jets. What is one way that they can fix that, and how can not only the Bills stop the run, but how can they stop the All-Pro and Josh Jacobs?
Well, it seems pretty simple, and I touched on it in my film breakdown. It's just tackling, man. I mean, it's like watching a bunch of fucking seventh graders out here trying to tackle in football, and we're ruthless on this show, so we can cuss. Don't be afraid to cuss. But the Bills made me want to cuss last week, so I had to bring it out. But it's really just as simple as don't be afraid to tackle. And those big runs that Breece Hall had were just the defensive backs being scared to hit. And the defensive scheme was there. The plays were set up right for the linebackers filled in the gaps, the defensive line filled in their gaps well. and then it left Poyer or Hyde or Trey White or Benford to make a play, which maybe that's not the best idea because we have cornerbacks that don't like to hit, and it just didn't work out for us. And it's been a thing since McDermott's been here. We haven't been great at tackling, and it blows my mind as a professional football team that they can't tackle. Like, you guys are grown men. You get paid millions of dollars to play football and tackle, and you learn tackling technique when you're the littlest player, from Pee Wee football, modified football, JV football, varsity football, however your levels go at your schools. But tackling is one of the first things you learn because you got to be safe, because you can get hurt if you don't tackle correctly. So you learn tackling form, and then they always tell you, don't arm tackle, don't arm tackle. If you arm tackle, you're going to get pulled out of the game. You do this. And then when you get to the pros, that's all they do. So really, it's as simple as wrapping up. If you're scared of tackling, dive at their legs. Try to do something to stop them from doing something. Because then you noticed once Trey White missed a tackle, all that was left was Poyer. And then Poyer once you're backpedaling and someone's running full speed at you, you're done. So, I mean, it really wasn't a good display. Now, what I think we could do is run more 4-3 sets instead of nickel, and elevate Kirksey and let Kirksey, Milano, and Bernard play and see how it works with that. Because as I mentioned in my pregame show about the Raiders, especially in the red zone, they always go heavy. And they got at least 6 offensive linemen plus their tight ends blocking, and then you're going to get washed out easily. So it might be better to run with 3 linebackers in a game like this, instead of being a nickel. Maybe give Teron Johnson a day off, or just most of the time play out of nickel. You could still stick to what you normally do because you know they're going to do that anyway, but bring in packages where you got 3 linebackers out there and switch it up. Because the Raiders are probably expecting the Bills to run the same old defense. We did this against the Titans with Derrick Henry. We brought, I think it was Klein. Excuse me. We brought Klein out there for the game, and then it worked pretty decent. And in a game like this, it's better to sell out for the run and make Jimmy Garoppolo beat you. He's consistent. He's a great, decent quarterback, but you have a better chance of winning if you sell out for the run and let Jimmy Garoppolo beat you. So tackle, that's a big thing. And not to get too much into the Raiders yet, but their defensive backs, when I was watching the All-22, they might not be great in coverage, but they're not afraid to hit you. No running back or receiver got by them after they made contact. And that's what we need. I know it's kind of late to teach that now, but just try. I mean, you guys are grown men. Have some pride. You know what I mean? Have some damn pride. Make a tackle. Make a big stop. Because it could come down to that. Those Breece Hall runs, that first one that Trey missed, that was a tackle for no gain if he made that play instead of an 83-yard run. And as John Roberts said, you can even use a guy like Taylor Rapp in the dime also. Something like that, where you sell out for the run, and then you hope that Trey White can win against Devontae Adams more than he loses.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Shawn. You said it perfectly, how they can play the run game. And I think also another aspect is getting more penetration with guys like Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones to get into the backfield so that guys like Terrell Bernard can shoot the gap and get into the backfield. That's one thing I want to see more of this week. But like John Roberts said, Taylor Rapp in those packages as well. I'm okay with having him out there on the field if he can get into the backfield and make stops. That's one thing I want to see. And maybe it's a guy like Taylor going out there who can wrap up and get to the backfield and make some stops, then I'm okay with it. But I want to see the next guy come up and make him stops and not have long runs that we saw last week with Breece Hall. But if Buffalo can do that, and they stop the run, then it becomes one-dimensional, and it gets to the strengths of the Buffalo Bills defense, which is the passing game. And Buffalo only gave up 140 passing yards last week to Zach Wilson. And they also had 5 sacks as well. So those are 2 aspects that the Bills can use to their strengths to get to where Buffalo wants to play in the game. And I believe that the Bills want to get the teams to be able to pass on them because that means that they probably have a lead in this game. So if the Bills are able to keep the ball moving down the field and get points on the board, then teams are going to have to pass on them, and they're not going to be able to run the ball. But if Buffalo makes mistakes like you saw last week, then the teams are going to be able to run the ball on them consistently, and it's going to fall right into the strengths of whatever team that we're playing. So that's the area that I believe Buffalo needs to focus on, is the run defense, in order to get to the passing game and create third and longs so that Buffalo can use their pass rushers to get into the backfield. And John Robert brought up another good point, which is that he wants to see Kingsley Jonathan activated this week, which he alluded to. He might be activated this week. I haven't heard anything about the anybody called up yet. I don't know if you have, Shawn, as well.
No,
I haven't heard any call-ups either. And then Mafia Sports Report said, smash the like button, Bills Mafia.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thankful to have him out here as well. If you haven't gone on over to the Mafia Sports Report, check them out on YouTube. Great show that they have as well. So tune into their show as well. So, Shawn, I want to talk about another subject that I think is going to be important, which is what we saw last week from the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders game, which was the Denver Broncos weren't able to get Jimmy Garoppolo down on the ground whatsoever in that game. On 26 dropbacks, no sacks whatsoever from the Denver Broncos. How can the Bills get into the backfield, put Jimmy Garoppolo on the ground for his first sack of the year? And what weaknesses do you see on that offensive line from the Las Vegas Raiders?
Well, basically, kind of similar to what we did last week. Be pretty aggressive. Run a lot of stunts. Their left side's very strong with Miller and Parham. They got Greg Van Roten at right guard, so that's a guy you can't exploit. The Raiders' offensive line was actually last year one of the worst offensive lines. However, they finished number 10 out of 32. So, and they had everybody the same except for Van Roten. So last week, you could attribute a little bit of it to the Broncos don't have a great pass rush, but also they did a phenomenal job in run and pass blocking. And my friend mentioned that, the Raiders fan. And then from what I saw in the all-20, I didn't watch the whole all-22, but that's what I noticed as well. And also Jimmy Garoppolo's smart. He goes through his progressions really quick and gets the ball out fast. So, I mean, if you get the ball out fast, it negates a pass rush. So we just got to keep being aggressive and keep being what we were last week. The Raiders' offensive line is better than the Jets' offensive line. Let's not mistake that at all. But we can still get pressure. You know, we brought Leonard Floyd in for a reason. He'll be going against their left tackle most of the time, who I like their left guard Parham better, but they're both very strong and both very good at their job. So we're going to have to rely on a little bit of Greg Rousseau on the other side. I think it's Illuminor at right tackle, who we talked about in the offseason about signing. And then you got Greg Van Roten, which I think Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones and Jordan Phillips can really exploit. And then again, just some delayed blitz might help as well. But it all depends on it all depends on how the game's going. You got to see if they come out just running the ball like crazy. Then you got to be a little bit, more conservative with who you send and when and where. And then, but I think we'll be fine as far as pass rush, because I was worried about that before the game. I said, what are they going to do without Von Miller? They didn't prove anything without Von Miller last year. I mean, Rousseau missed 2 sacks on his own, so that's 2 sacks he could have had. He's right there for him. So he's getting the pressure, he's getting through. And then Leonard Floyd came in big time. Jordan Phillips came in big time. And Oliver had a good game. Poona Ford and Tim Settle didn't play much, but when they did play, they did pretty decent. So I think our defensive line will be fine. It all depends on what the Raiders' game plan is, because they could just, okay, you guys had a great pass rush last week, quick pass and run, and then, protect Jimmy Garoppolo by not letting him drop back too far. And they don't have Jacoby Myers this week, so they might have to stick to a game plan like that. Once in a while, they might go for deep for Adams, and that's when you have a chance. You have to get home there. But as far as getting pressure, just remain aggressive. We saw a lot of good stunts and a lot of delayed blitz from the linebackers, and pretty stacked box for the most part. I liked what we were able to do. And, Garoppolo will run if he has to. So we have to be mindful of that. But like I said, bring some delayed blitz, keep bringing the stunts, be aggressive.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Shawn. And you alluded to the fact that the Raiders will be without Jacoby Myers. And I wanted to get to some of the players that are going to be out for the Las Vegas Raiders. They will have two guys that are going to be out in this game. It's going to be Jacoby Myers with the concussion, as well as Chandler Jones, who's dealing with some personal issues. He is a Syracuse product and someone who has been a very good player in the league, and I wish him all the best. I know that what he's going through is tough, and hopefully he gets the help that he needs, because we want to see him out in the field. We don't want to be, I personally would rather see Chandler Jones out there because of what he can do on the field. Now, I hope he doesn't do it against the Buffalo Bills, but I want to see him out there though, because he's such a good player in this league, and losing a player like that is never good for the NFL. So
right,
he can get back as soon as possible, get back to the normal Chandler Jones that we see, and he makes an impact out there in this league. But from what I think the Bills can do out there with this pass rush is, you got to bring the same guys that you did last week. We had 45% pressure rate against the New York Jets, and that's by far better than the league average, which is 30% pass rush rate or pressure rate on teams. So if we can get that same pressure rate for the Buffalo Bills, then that plays into our backfield that we have with guys like Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, and Christian Benford. Somebody's going to get a pick this week if that happens, where we can have that 45
turnovers.
Yeah, we got to create turnovers. We got to eliminate the turnovers on the offense and create turnovers on defense. Right now, we only have that one interception that Matt Milano had. So we need to get some more turnovers for the Buffalo Bills to put those numbers back into the area that we want to see Buffalo have. So I want to see more of the pressure that we saw last week, some more creativity, I would say, too, with different defensive back blitzes. Maybe you bring in a guy like Taylor Rapp to blitz, or you send a guy like Matt Milano into to get to the quarterback. But I think this is a game where Buffalo can do that, because you don't necessarily have to worry about the tight end position. You don't have to worry about the weapons that the Green Bay Jets have. I was going to say, so you don't have to worry about those weapons. You don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers this week. It's just Jimmy Garoppolo, pretty much, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs that you have to worry about. Now, there's some sprinkled in players that you have to consider, but those are the main weapons that the Las Vegas Raiders have. And you can sprinkle in these other players, but I think Buffalo can cover them as well. So now you can mix in different guys out there in the that can blitz, and that's going to be the key for Buffalo. Is can you get to Jimmy Garoppolo and not give him enough time to set his feet in the pocket and get the ball to his different receivers? That's going to be the key.
Great point. I do want to mention, though, I mean, as good as our defensive line was last week, I'm a big stat guy, and the Raiders were a top 10 offensive line last year, and they did perform well week one. So we have no reason to believe that they're any kind of, taking a step back, even though they have Van Roten. Van Roten isn't that good, but maybe he works with them. So, or maybe we just couldn't evaluate him good enough, which has happened in the past. So I don't want people to get discouraged if for some reason we're not getting to the quarterback as frequent as we were last week. There's always context to everything. I also want to point out that this also reminds me of the Colts game a couple years ago. This could get ugly really fast. If Josh Jacobs gets cooking and we can't tackle, I'm not saying it's going to be like that, but we can't just act like, even though this should be a team that we just walk right over because we have more firepower than they do. They're a decent team, and you shouldn't take anybody lightly, but they can easily suck the life out of this game and just run with Jacobs, and then out of nowhere everything goes their way. Then all of a sudden Jacobs has 5 touchdowns like Jonathan Taylor did.
Right.
You could argue who's better, but they're both that deadly in the run game. So tackle, please. Don't give them don't make it so we have to be down 3 scores already, and then all of a sudden we're screwed at that point.
Yeah.
Get ahead, stay ahead, sell out for the run, and dare Jimmy Garoppolo to beat you with one weapon, because you got number 2 weapons out. They didn't really incorporate Hunter Renfrow week 1 at all. He didn't get any targets for his first time in his Raider career, and I'm willing to risk. Let Hunter Renfrow and Jimmy Garoppolo and Michael Mayer beat you, and try to contain Davante Adams. I don't think we will. I think we'll have some plays, but get ahead, get confident, get that first touchdown on the board if we get the ball first, or if you're playing defense first, get a quick 3 and out. Don't let Jacobs heat up. He did admit he was rusty last week. However, don't expect that this week. Don't expect us to. I mean, we could definitely. We stopped Derrick Henry before, but Jacobs is going to be ready to come out firing this week, so we got to be ready to tackle. He probably saw that film last week and was like, "Man, these Raiders DBs were just. I mean, these Broncos secondary and linebackers, they're hard to get through because they fly around crazy, but just this Bills secondary and these Bills backs, they don't want to hit nobody. All I got to do is get near them, and they're cowering in fear. So that's all I'm worried about, is that this could get ugly if we allow it to. We control our destiny. Worry about us. I mean, man, it's just don't think about how Jacobs can just take control of a game. He's done it. He's taken control of many games in his career. So Don't let that be us. You can't start off 0-2.
I completely agree with you. And I was even thinking that this is a game where the Raiders can expose us if they want to. I mean, if they get the run game going and they can get the ball to Davante Adams, then they're exposing what the Buffalo Bills are this season. And while I don't feel like that will happen this week, I mean, there's a good shot that they could expose us and show what type of team that we are. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And I do want to get to the comments on YouTube as well as Facebook. And this comment from Mike Fortin, he said that he would love to see Christian Kirksey elevated. John Roberts said that Leonard Floyd and Greg Russo out there together versus the Raiders, they can't double team both of them. Mafia Sports Report said that this would be a correct, wrong game for the Buffalo Bills. I completely agree with that comment.
Absolutely.
Mike said Jimmy G has a 71% win percentage. Now, I do want to get to one point that that's a really good stat that Mike brought up. But the Bills, over the last few seasons since 2020, have an 80% win percentage at Highmark Stadium. So the Bills need to protect their turf this week, and that's going to be a way for the Bills to get back into the game and get their first win of the year. John Roberts said that Jimmy can't release it fast, and the Bills DBs have the wide receivers. If the Bills DBs have the wide receivers covered.
Yep, that's what happened. That's a great point, because that sack that Torrance and Brown got blown up on, and Brown gave up the sack, it was a 3-step drop. So the pass was supposed to be, hike, out. But Josh got scared because it was covered, and he pump faked like 3 times, and then Brown got pushed into him. So again, Brown got blown up. But just like when Rodgers got hurt, when the play he got hurt on, the play was supposed to be out as soon as the tackle chop blocked, but he didn't, because he got scared and then he got hurt. So again, that was another, the offensive line gets blamed for it, but that was on Josh. He did a 3-step drop. Ball needs to be out immediately, and it was covered. So that's a great point. If we could keep them covered, which, keeping Davante Adams covered is going to be extremely difficult. But we're going to have to do something. You're going to have to figure something out, McDermott, because if he gets the ball out quick and keeps doing what they do best, it's going to be a closer game than we'd like. And, I know I never like big spreads, but we could definitely win this game. Like Tommy said from Mafia Sports Report, this has to be a correct or wrong game. And it really needs to, man. I mean, the media's all been off us for the year. Everyone's going on, starting to degrade Josh Allen for all the good they don't even bring up the good he's done anymore. They're just like, you know what? Yeah, why didn't we talk about this sooner? Even though they people talk bad about Josh Allen since he came into the league, but
That's right.
now like even other players are like, the Javon Curse from the Cowboys. Like, can we talk about Mr. Allen now instead of my quarterback? So other players are wanting more hate to be thrown at Josh Allen now. And I get you protect your quarterback, and even Dak's getting hate that he doesn't deserve because he's the Cowboys quarterback. But this has to be a game where we dominate on our turf, like Brett said. Get the media to just back off, stop worrying about us, worry about your fan favorites that you guys always like, and then let us be us. Get that first win, and then the most important game is the next one. So it don't matter about next week yet. It don't matter about the week before anymore. All that matters is 1 week at a time. And I brought it up last year, I believe, but I'm a Washington Nationals fan. I've been a fan since their second year of being a team. When we won the World Series, David Martinez, the coach, the manager, said, "Go 1-0 every day." That was our slogan, but there's 162 games, so it makes more sense. But that's kind of how I look at it for football now. Go 1-0 every week. Don't worry about what happens next week. All you can control is right now, right here, and then eventually you'll get to where you need to be. And then we went from 19-31 with a 1% chance of making it to the postseason to winning the World Series against a team that was cheating. So anything can happen. Got to work hard. Got to believe. 1 week at a time. Don't be looking at, I have to win the Super Bowl. I have to get to the AFC Championship because then I'll let the fans down. I think that's part of it with Josh is he always brings it up too. He always mentions how I got to bring a championship, or we got to bring a championship to these fans. Like the city deserves it. Like, nobody's more loyal than this fan base. Don't put all that pressure on yourself, man. Like that's a whole ton of pressure that no man should even have to bear on their own. So just worry about 1 week. Worry about, because last week he's worried about getting the job done in one play. If you just play decent and maybe one turnover or two turnovers, we would have won that game. Don't have to try to just be the best player in the world every single week. Just got to win. Just got to be you enough to win. So, that's my little rant. So we can go to the next topic.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I do want to get to the comments on YouTube right now. And Tom asked do we have the scratch report yet? Not yet. That should come out about an hour and a half before game time. So as soon as we get that to you, I will post it on Go Bills podcast. So as soon as we get it, and I will post it to everybody. John Robert said Josh needs to spread the ball around more. We'll get into that in just a second, John. I don't want to spoil anything that we're going to talk about coming up. And then he also said that the last week he heard that the Bills were at 8.5 point.
Yeah.
There's an 8.5 point advantage, and that is correct.
That's interesting because it was 9.5 on Wednesday when we did our show, and Jacoby Myers is out, and it still went down to 8.5 instead of even going up. So, yeah.
Yep, it went down to 8.5. In the Vegas spread that I had, it was 8.5, which I saw that on Thursday morning. So it switched sometime after we did the show on Wednesday. So it looks like, it's an 8.5 point spread. That's a tough spread. I don't like giving up all those points. Don't get me wrong, but we'll get into our predictions for who's going to win later on. So I don't want to spoil that either. So I won't say either way whether you should take this or that. So we'll get into that very much later in the show. But now I do want to focus on the Bills offense and talking about the man that has had the worst week of probably his life, and talking about Josh Allen and all the hate that you're hearing from national media now. You have ESPN, you have NFL Network, you have former players that he had that are coming to Josh Allen and talking about him now. And you had Shady McCoy who stood up for Josh Allen. And you've had all these different players that have talked about Josh. And Shawn, I want to ask you, as not only a Bills fan, but as someone who understands the game of football so well, do you think that Josh Allen can, number one, correct the issues that he has? And number two, how can he correct them?
I believe he can, but will he? That's completely on Josh Allen. And I forgot where I heard it from. It could have been from Tommy's show. It could have been from anybody's show. But somebody brought up when he was in college that someone asked his coach, his Wyoming coach, what was your favorite memory, or what was one thing you remember most about him? And he mentioned how there was a play that was designed to go to a fullback. So I'm assuming it wasn't a big, scary play or anything. Josh ignored it. Then he threw a 60-yard bomb across his chest on, in a complete perfect throw for a touchdown. The coach said, Josh, play was supposed to go to the fullback. And he talked back to his coach and said, Brett Favre said touchdowns are better, or touchdowns first. So yeah, he's a kid when he said that. You should never talk back to your coach or whatever. But that was in college. Now he's still in the NFL doing things like that. 6 years later, he admitted, I know what I have to do by now. It's year 6. I just got to fix it. He's never proven that he can fix it. He says he's going to do it. He always talks about, I need to do this. I need to do this. I think he can, but will he is a maturity, level for him that he needs to get over, because he evolved his mechanics. He evolved his playing ability. He evolved his arm. He evolved everything that needs to be evolved. But now you got to evolve up here. Like Peyton Manning, he evolved up here as the years go on. And that's how every quarterback should be. You should be able to go up there by year 10 and know every single thing about a defense and be like Peyton Manning. Not exactly like Peyton Manning, but go up to the line. Okay, I'm fixing this, and we're doing this now because I see they're going to do this, and I know they're going to do that. That's part of evolving more, because even Josh mentioned it, I think it was 2 years ago. In this game, if you're not evolving, then you're going to lose, or you're defeated, or something like that along those lines. And he's not taking his own advice and evolving. And I don't think this is. I'm not going to say this has a correlation, but then when they brought up how on the podcast where he said he doesn't do anything in the offseason, this is something that makes you frustrated now, because we all believed and we all said by week 1 he'll be ready. Yeah. And he wasn't. And I'm not saying you have to eat perfectly healthy. You have to train every freaking day, but do something beneficial. Don't just go on vacations all summer. Hey, I work every day of my life with no days off. I understand how it feels, but I don't have to win a Super Bowl. I don't have to, I'm not making millions of dollars to run my business. Yeah, hopefully one day. But my whole point of that whole situation was, you're a human. Do what you have to do. Rest. Do what you want to do. However, you're getting paid $258 million to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And then you tell us on national on a podcast that you don't do jack shit in the offseason. You're 28 years old, 27 years old. This isn't the time to do jack shit. This is the time to do everything, because you got to keep evolving. You got to be the best quarterback you can be. I know, people like Mahomes, they post about it and they brag about it. You could do it in silence. He may have done it in silence. He might just be saying he doesn't do anything. But don't go on the podcast and say, oh, yeah, my coaches are going to get pissed at me because I don't work out or train in the whole offseason, and then I come back and I'm stronger than I was the year before. You shouldn't be saying that stuff. Keep it to yourself if that's really what you're doing. But if you need to keep evolving and you keep turning the ball over, you have to keep diving into the tape. I don't care if it's 1 hour a night in the summer. You could be in Cabo and doing whatever you want. But at night, okay, I'm going to dedicate an hour to the games I played like shit. In the games I turned the ball over 4 times or 3 times or 2 times or cost us the game. I need to keep watching this so I can help myself be better. And, a lot of it's just up here. And, I can't even begin to imagine, everybody says it, how tough it is to be a quarterback in the NFL. It's tough to be a quarterback in the lowest level, let alone the NFL, when you got maniacs coming off the edge trying to take your head off. I'm not going to pretend like that's the easiest thing in the world, but that's why you had to keep putting the work in. It doesn't end. And I think it was a baseball player, but they said as soon as you get to the show, it's not over yet. You got to keep earning your spot in the show, because you can get right back down to AAA or AA. It doesn't matter that you got up to the big leagues. If you don't keep working your ass off, you're going to find yourself back in AAA making $1,000 a month. And then you're living in your friend's apartment with 6 people. It's not an easy life. So in NFL, they don't have that. But, it's all about his maturity. I think he can, but will he? He hasn't showed us yet. And I'm not going to say this game, if he has no turnovers, that it's all fixed, because it's not. This isn't a one-game fix. He's been doing this for his whole life, his whole NFL or college or high school. I didn't watch him in high school, but you can imagine if he was doing it in college and the NFL, he was probably doing it in high school too. And he worked his ass off to get to the NFL. No big colleges wanted him. He had to write 1,000 letters. I've been there. I wrote letters to colleges, and obviously I'm not Josh Allen, but I've been there. I know what it feels like to have nobody want you. But don't stop working now that you got the paycheck. Don't stop working now that you won playoff games. It's bigger than all that. You want to have a legacy. So, I believe in them.
Yeah.
But you got to do it more than just a Raiders game. You got to keep doing it. And what I was hoping, sorry to keep rambling, but it's an important thing to talk about. You played the Jets twice last year and you did horrible. I was thinking, and after watching that film from the game we lost, they did the same thing they did this time, only they had to blitz more and do more stunts because their offensive line was performing better. However, everything they ran was almost exactly the same. And then Josh still did the same stuff. Josh still wasn't looking at the safety. Josh still wasn't trusting that when you have a hot route, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. You know that guy's there. That's why they're there for a reason. Yep. If none of your reads are there or open, you dump it off. That's why the hot route is designed. So the excuse that, none of his reads were open and he tried to do this and then whatever, your hot route's there no matter what. And usually they're not covered. So, or if anything, throw the ball away. Be smart. Throw the ball away. So, I mean, I'll let you say your opinion because I can ramble forever. So
it's all good, man. Hey, you're bringing the heat today. That's what we want. So I do appreciate you bringing the heat. And you're saying your opinion. You're a passionate Bills fan that's saying his opinion, which is what matters. So for me, it really comes down to a couple of things. And John Robert got to it right away. He said, spread the ball out to his receivers. I felt like a little bit in the game against the Jets, felt like Josh was trying to force feed Stephon Diggs. And there was plays where Josh just didn't see the open receiver like you talked about. He didn't look at that safety and see, okay, this receiver is wide open and, there's Kincaid across the middle that I can hit, or there's Steph is open on this play and I can hit Steph on that play because he's open and he can take some yards after the catch. It just seemed like in the second half, he was trying to force feed the ball deep down the field, try and, play that Brett Favre hero type of ball that he likes to play. And that's a good thing and that he does that in situations, but you got to do it when it's the right time. And those were not the right times that he was doing it in. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing that ball go 70, 80 yards deep down the field when it goes to a Bills receiver. I love it. It's perfect. It's the best thing to see out there on the field. But when you're costing your team drives and it's consistently happening, then you need to go and create a reality check and say, what can I do better? And that is go back to the fundamentals of what is working right. And when you do that, you're going to see that, hey, the Bills were rocking when we were creating those short, intermediate routes across the middle, and we were hitting the checkdowns. We were hitting Deontay Hardy. We were hitting guys like, James Cook coming out of the backfield in certain situations. When your number 2 receiver on your team is a running back, that's not necessarily a good sign. I mean, I love it if it's screen passes to the running back, but we need to create and have some more receivers and create some more diversity in the offense. And that's one thing I want to see this week. And you don't have a matchup between DJ Reed and Gabe Davis. So this week, I want to see Gabe Davis get involved. I want to see the DK brothers get involved a little bit more. I want to see Steph get involved. And I also want to see our new receivers that we got in Deontay Hardy and Trent Sherfield. I want to see them get involved in this game. So spread the ball out as much as you can. Get your receivers involved. I want to see 7, 8 receivers catch the ball this week. At least one pass. That's what I want to see. If it's running backs, if 3 running backs catch it, I'm okay with that. But I want to see the ball being spread around as much as possible in order to get Josh to see different sides of the field. That's one thing that he needs to do is look at the safety, say, okay, I can hit that route to, James Cook because that safety is playing deep and that linebacker is playing deep. So I'm going to hit James Cook over here on this play because James can get the ball 5 to 7 yards down the field. And and that creates a 3rd and short for us, and we can convert drives that way. But I don't want to see him force feed the ball to Diggs if there's a receiver that's open that we can get the ball to. So if the Bills do that this week, I'm perfectly okay with it. And I do think that Josh is going to become the Josh that we normally see.
Yeah, great points. I mean,
he's the first to admit that, he makes mistakes, and I'm glad he does. But now let's capitalize on those mistakes. Let's learn from those mistakes, and let's do it. That's the biggest thing. Let's freaking do it, and let's go out there and make the Raiders game the first game that we're going to do it in. And we're going to continue fixing these mistakes all year long. We're going to silence the freaking haters that are in the national media. Let's do it 1 week at a time. Let's get it all the way to the Super Bowl. Let's finish it off in the Super Bowl, because that's the way that Josh Allen is going to do it this freaking year. And I'm going to be ruthless right now and say it, because this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, man, it does. Absolutely. The only thing I'll say that I didn't agree with there was that the force feeding Diggs part. With a guy like him, I don't care if you throw the ball 15 times his way, because he's going to make something happen. It worked out in this situation. Like, I agree with you, though. Like, if he's in double coverage or triple coverage, don't force him the ball. But
that's what I'm getting at.
He was one-on-one for the most part and won. So, I mean, I was happy with what he did. It just felt like Josh was just trying to be the hero. Like, it sounds so dumb. He was just trying to do everything when he didn't have to. Like,
the one interception that pissed me off was when Josh threw it deep down the field into double coverage with Stephon Diggs. He was trying to throw it to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, that play was.
I'm getting at. I don't mind that Josh gave Diggs 13 targets. That's what he should get every single game. He's an elite receiver in this league, and he deserves 13, 15, 20 targets a game. I'm okay with that. But when you force feed it into double coverage and you cost your team an interception, that's what hurts me. And that's what I don't like, because if Diggs is double covered or triple covered, then somebody else is wide open on the field. That's what we need to see. And that's what Josh needs to say. Hey, Diggs is double covered on this play. I'm going to hit another player here. I'm going to hit the Gabe Davis. I'm going to hit one of the DK brothers. I'm going to hit, my running back. And we're going to just say, take this play as, okay, Diggs is wide open deep here. I'm going to hit a check down. I'm going to do this or that to get a player open so that I can convert drives so that I can get the ball to Steph on another play when he is one-on-one in coverage.
Absolutely. That play, it's funny because the way where the ball was, if he watched the safety and the safety didn't backpedal and go with the play, that would have been a perfect touchdown. However, Josh predetermined in that play. In my opinion, it looked like he predetermined it. Yes. He was gonna go to Diggs. He didn't watch the safety because the safety was watching him. And that's all you have to do. And I mentioned it in the film study. It's basic quarterback 101. I didn't play quarterback, but I know in the film room, I heard when I was playing, I was there for the offense. You know what I mean? So it's just, you got to watch the safety. They didn't do anything crazy. He just was standing. They were in a normal shell, normal cover 2. And then there was Sherfield. I think someone mentioned that Sherfield didn't run the correct depth in the route. However, Josh should have saw, okay, the safety's backpedaling while I want to throw to Diggs. So if he's still backpedaling, I can either hit Sherfield really quick right here, hit my hot route, or throw the ball out of bounds. And then, he cocked back and just chucked it. And if Whitehead wasn't there, Diggs would have had a touchdown. He would have had to reach for it or dive, but it would have been one of those. Josh mentioned it too. It's either the best play in the world or it's hurting our team. And it would have been one of those plays where it was awesome, but you just got to watch. You just got to watch this. Watch you read the defense. It's easy for me to say because I'm a fan. I'm not playing quarterback, but as a quarterback who's smart and who can read defenses, who can read post snap, he didn't look too good post snap last week, or even pre snap. You got to watch. It's just, you see the safety sitting there, and if you're watching Diggs and you're seeing the safety backpedal in your view, don't throw it, because you weren't gonna. If he made, the probability of him making that catch was 1%. It wasn't a good probability throw. You better just throw the ball out of bounds. And like I said, I love Josh Allen. He's one of my favorite persons in the world. Football wise, and I don't know him personally. He could be an asshole. I don't know. But from what we know about him, he seems like he's a really awesome, genuine person, and we all love him, and we all believe in him that he can win us. He can get us to the Super Bowl and win. But keep doing like this, man. I mean, the interceptions don't like when people talk about his 84 turnovers. He only has 64 picks in six years now, counting. It's in the 6th year, which is like 12 picks a year. That's not bad at all. I'll take that all day. But the fumbles, not taking care of the ball, that's the big thing. He has 20 fumbles lost in his career, and most of it is not paying attention. Most of it is getting sacked from behind, not holding on to the football. But it's interceptions happen. That's not what I'm mad. I'm mad about how they happened in this game. If he throws 12 picks every year, I don't care. He's going to get 40 plus total touchdowns every year. And if you go 40 plus total touchdowns and 12 picks, that's great. That's all you can ask for.
That's a great ratio.
Yeah, it's a great, and I'm fine with that. But he's got to really remember you have a team around you. You're not throwing the ball to yourself. You don't have it's not 11 against 2. It's you have a whole squad of 10 with you, 11 including yourself, obviously. And we brought people in for you to help who have better pass catchers than we had, more consistent pass catchers, faster, different weapons. You like I thought he did spread the ball around. Like I think all 3 running backs had a catch. At least 7 or 8 people caught the ball, but like you mentioned, it wasn't enough. It was just a couple here and there. And I think this is a game. The Jets defense, they're fast, even all over the place. So maybe it was hard for guys like Knox and Kincaid to make more plays. But in a game like this, I think you could spread the love, and hopefully everybody can get involved. And Josh doesn't feel like he needs to make dumb decisions, because that's the other thing. I feel like he thinks I have to do something about it now. It's like, no, dude, we were up 13-3, and you could have punted the rest of the game, and we would have won 13-3, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't want a game 3-2. I don't care. Yeah. I mean, I always mention it's how you win. So if we won 3-2, I'd be like, well, it wasn't a great game. We got to talk about it still. But in a schedule like that we have to finish with the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Dolphins. Like we have the Bengals. We have a hard schedule coming up in the end of the season. So these early games, a game like that where we gave it away, it's really important.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I want to bring up this comment from Trey Williams. He said, do you guys project Trey White's play is at least solid cornerback 2 worthy this year? I think his numbers are going to be way better than cornerback 2. So I think he's going to be at a cornerback 1 role this year. I mean, if you look at what he did against Garrett Wilson, even though he gave up that touchdown to Garrett Wilson, he made a play on that ball, and just the luck of the draw, it bounced into Garrett's hands, and it's a great play by Garrett Wilson. He's an all-pro player, and he's going up against an all-pro cornerback in Tre'Davious White. I think Tre'Davious is going to be back to the same Trey that you saw before the injury to his ACL. He's going to make an impact this week with Devontae Adams, and he's going up against some of the best wide receivers in the game this year. So I think he's only going to get better, and iron sharpens iron, like you talked about in training camp, Shawn. Iron is going to sharpen iron, and he's only going to become better as the year goes on. The more experience he gets back out there on the field, and the more he gets his legs under him, he's going to make an impact each and every drive for the Buffalo Bills, and he is a solid cornerback 1 for our team. Shawn, how do you feel about Tre'Davious White?
I want to say I don't think I've ever seen Trey. So Trey, we appreciate you coming in. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. I think as far as tackling, I don't think he'll be great at it. But as far as his actual, pass play, I think he'll be just pretty much, maybe not as good as he was in his prime, because I feel like cornerbacks' primes are a little bit shorter. But I think he'll be good enough as a cornerback one for us to win a lot of games and stop a bunch of good receivers. He's going to lose some. He's going to win some. He'll probably win more than he loses. But like I mentioned, I think cornerback shelf life is smaller than a receiver or a quarterback. So yeah, he's not old, but they have a short prime, and I think after the injury, maybe we won't see who he was before, but he'll still be a very solid CB1, and I believe in him to make some big plays for us. It didn't happen. I mean, he didn't make a play. It just bounced the wrong way.
Yeah.
Um, he was getting boxed out. Maybe if he was a little bit more inside, it would have been better. But he didn't play that leverage and didn't work out. But he's smart. I know he will fix mistakes. Like Josh is a smart guy too, but Trey White, I know he will fix a mistake immediately. So have faith. I think you do. I think we all do. But don't expect him to be locked down all the time. I mean, he's gonna get beat sometimes, and if you get beat by Devontae Adams, I'm not gonna be, surprised. Devontae Adams beats everybody, so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not expecting him to be, like number one corner in the NFL or anything. Just be the number one corner on the Buffalo Bills. That's all we can ask for, baby.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Shawn. And I do think that Tre'Davious had a really good start last week against Garrett Wilson, even though Mike said that the PFF numbers didn't like Trey's game. I thought that he did a pretty good job of covering Garrett Wilson, even though he gave up 5 catches for 34 yards and that touchdown. I felt like it's a really good start for Trey. And as the season goes on and the more experience he gets back out there again after that knee injury, he's only going to get better. So that's one thing I like
he
about
got like 18 and in his run defense on PFF, which it makes a lot of sense. So I don't remember his like actual passing defense stats, but his overall grade will go down significantly because of the 18 in the run defense. But I mean, they graded him right on that for sure. I mean, we've seen it in the tape.
Well, yeah, he does need to learn how to tackle in the run game. But if I remember before the injury, Trey would come in and make stops in the run game. So he's going to get it back. He's going to get it back. It's just some timing issues that he needs to work on a little bit. He'll get back to the normal Trey that you see, and he's going to make an impact for this team. And Shawn, I did want to get back to that. We were talking about Josh Allen, and you brought up some good points about you're talking about drives ending in punts. And I wanted to allude back to that a little bit and say, I'm okay with every drive ending in a kick. And that's one thing that Sean McDermott should thrive on is every drive should end in a kick, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown with an extra point, or it ends up being, a punt, whatever the case may be. I'm okay with that because I want to see drives end that way rather than turnovers. That's what cost us the game last week. So if that happens, then I'm okay with it. And then getting back to Josh Allen, talking about him against the Jets. He was out of his atmosphere where he wasn't in front of the stellar crowd that we have with Bills Mafia. He's going to be back at home where he's familiar, where he's loved, where they're going to show him a lot of energy this week. And he's going to become the Josh Allen that we normally see. So I just want to say this to Bills Mafia that's watching out here. Let's pump the brakes on the Josh talk for this week. Let's get back to playing Buffalo Bills football, showing the world what we can do out here this week and being the Buffalo Bills team that we normally see. So let's eliminate the doubters. Let's get back to playing Buffalo Bills football. And like Buffalo Fanatics says, let's keep Buffalo a secret all year long. And let's have the charge hit when we get to the playoffs and when it's playoff time. Because we don't need to be the best team right now. We need to be the best team in December and January and going into February when we play. We don't need to be the best team right now. Let's learn from our mistakes right now, and let's make an impact in November, December, and January. That's where we should hit our stride and become.
I do agree. However, if we're 2-5, then we're not going to have a January. So
no, I agree.
I mean, we got to win. You're 100% right though. Get hot at the right time, but you got to win that was a winnable game even with Rodgers, and this could be a game that we lose, and then we could lose to the Commanders, and we could lose to the Dolphins. So we could start 0-4, 1-3, 2-2, and then you're still, But you're 100% right. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Saying win ugly. You can win ugly. I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with winning ugly right now. We should learn from our mistakes, win ugly games, whether it's a one possession game that we win because of a Tyler Bass field goal or whatever the case may be. Let's do that right now. Learn from our mistakes and get back to hitting our stride where we're winning games by 20, 25, 30 points a game, whatever the case may be. Let's do that in January and let's win those games easily. We don't need to do it right now. So let's, find a way to win games now and then learn from those mistakes as the year goes on and win these games by a commanding lead. But that's what we have to do. I'm not saying that we should lose games this year.
No, I don't think
I don't want that at all. No, every game matters. Don't get me wrong. Every game matters. But let's find a way to win games. And, Brad Gilbert, who's an excellent tennis coach out there, and coaches Coco Gauff, who won the U.S. Open just a few weeks ago, said, tennis is about winning ugly. Sports are about winning ugly games sometimes. That's what happens. Sometimes you don't play your best games, whether it's because Josh Allen isn't playing the best football or because, you're not having a good game, whatever the case may be. But let's find ways to win games, learn from those mistakes, get back to playing the complementary football that Sean McDermott wants to play, and let's kick some ass this week. And I used my first cuss word on the show just because of that. Let's kick some ass today. Well, tomorrow. Because I want to kick ass today. Let's kick ass tomorrow. Let's get it done. Let's get a win. Let's come out of the gates firing. And let's show Bills Mafia, if you're going to go to the game, let's be loud throughout the whole entire game. If you're going to that game, I want to hear you on national TV. I want to hear you screaming loud. I want to hear the energy because that's what Bills Mafia brings, the energy. And that's what we lacked last week, was some energy out there. Let's bring the energy. Let's make sure that we're going to play a good game for Josh Allen, and let's help the team win these games.
Oh, yeah. Bring up Trey's comment here real quick.
Yes, sir.
So Bills will get plenty of reps in 12 personnel. Hopefully these live reps will get the O-line better in run blocking than they have been. I will say that last game, there was holes there. James Cook just lacked the vision to get in those holes or make more yards. But if you're talking about just in the past, I think it will. We ran a ton of 12 personnel last week. We have to remember the Raiders' defensive line, although they have one of the best pass rushers, they don't have a top 5 defensive line unit. So there should be plenty of holes. We should have plenty of time for Josh, just like we did last week. And, I think we'll be just fine as far as offensive line goes this week. It's all really depending on Josh's decision-making, just like it did last week. It wasn't the line's fault. It was Josh making dumb choices because, we dissected every single play. And on all those interceptions, at least one guy was open, if not two. It just had a little bit of patience. And if you were scared about the rush coming, if you thought it was coming when it wasn't, throw the ball to your hot route. So, Josh has to – I understand too, because the offensive line was so putrid last year. Josh probably thinks there's pressure coming when it's really not. And he gets, leaves the pocket too early or creates pressures and sacks for himself. That's all part of him learning and developing too, which I think he will. But, there's definitely holes for us to run in this week. From week 1, the Raiders were good in run fill, but that was just one game, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But we should be able to run, and we definitely should be able to pass. So hopefully we could do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Shawn. Let's get into the passing game for the Buffalo Bills and talk about the protection that Josh is going to have out there. And he's going up against a matchup between Max Crosby and Spencer Brown, which is a matchup that I know, Shawn, you're a little worried about. But let's focus on this matchup with Brown and Crosby, because I want to talk about how Buffalo can help Spencer Brown in order to cover Max Crosby. And there's going to be some ways that Buffalo can do that, because they're not going up against an elite defensive line group that the New York Jets have. You don't have Quinnen Williams out there that's in the interior. You don't have John Franklin Myers. You don't have Bryce Huff out there. You don't have Chandler Jones that's going to be out there. So that helps the Buffalo Bills too. And then there's not a lot of weapons out there on the defensive line for the Raiders. So one area I think that the Bills can really focus on is having Osiris Torrance go over and help Spencer Brown and double team Max Crosby. Do you think that if Buffalo does this, that Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance can cover Max Crosby and keep him out of the backfield for the Bills? Or do you think that that would kind of expose some of the middle of the defensive line for the Buffalo Bills? Because I do think that Buffalo can move guys around with you could have Mitch Morse slide over a little to cover that defensive lineman, the defensive tackle that's going to play towards the middle. And you can also have Connor McGovern cover the other defensive tackle as well. And then it's going to be a one-on-one on the other side with Deion Dawkins versus the rookie in I'm trying to remember his name, but I want to say it's Tyree Wilson.
Yeah,
he's going up against. So if it's Tyree Wilson that he's going up against, I feel confident with Docs going up against him. So you cover the middle of the guys with one-on-ones with McGovern and Mitch Morse against the defensive tackle and Docs, and then you have to double team with Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance. Do you like the way that the Bills would do that, or do you think that exposes a little too much to the middle where guys can get to Josh Allen easy?
I wish it was as simple as just, having Torrance double team with him, but that's only based on how the Raiders line up on defense. So if you got, their defensive tackle and a 3-tech on Torrance's inside shoulder, Torrance can't just immediately go help Spencer Brown because you work inside to outside for the defensive for offensive line. So he has to go 3-tech, and then he can help if it's Crosby's so quick that it might not matter. Like John Robert mentioned, but everything, it's still a great point. Like Dawkins on the rookie, if it lines up like that on, everybody's outside, everybody's shading to the other side, you can also slide step over to help. But I think, like John Roberts said, they're going to use tight ends more or running backs to help with Crosby. And then, just like it was in the Jets game, Torrance had his own guy for some parts. And then when he could pass him off to Morse, then he was able to help Spencer Brown. That could happen too, which I think that's what you were saying. But it's not like, I wish it was just like, what? Morse has him, McGovern has the other guy, Dawkins has the other guy, and you can just push Torrance on. But it's just if they did do that, then it could easily be beatable, and then they would bring a blitz once in a while, and then make someone else make a decision. Someone's got to pick the blitz up. So,
if that might have to be, not only would it have to be Torrance, but it might have to be guys like Latavius Murray that comes into the backfield.
Great point.
More Harris and more Murray. He's 6'3". He's a bigger back. If it's going to be Murray or it's going to have to be Damian Harris that does it. And this comment from Trey that he said here, that's exciting regarding O-line holes. Hopefully more Damian Harris and Murray physicality. That's where both of them can bring that physicality because they're bruising running backs in this league. But if they can also pass block in these situations and keep Max Crosby out of the backfield for the Bills, then I'm perfectly okay with them just playing the similar Fred Jackson role that you saw where, he was known for his pass blocking and then he was known for his running game too. You might have to mix that in a little bit more and have a guy in the backfield that's covering Crosby's side. Because you don't want Crosby to get into this game. That's one thing that you don't want to happen. I look back at different defensive ends that made an impact for their teams and against the Buffalo Bills. And the one game that keeps replaying in my head, Shawn, and you'll remember it, is when the Houston Texans didn't have any energy in that playoff game. And who got into the backfield that we didn't want to get into that backfield? J.J. Watt. That's not what we need this week. We don't need to have Max Crosby get into that backfield and give the Raiders any energy when they're going to be coming to Buffalo, who's going to bring the freaking energy like they always do every single time that you're there. You want them to be stale out there. You want them to be like burnt popcorn out there. You don't want them to have any energy. You want them to play that stale game where, the Bills just pick them apart and they expose them. And that's the way that they need to play. So
absolutely. If Brown's ever one-on-one with Crosby in the pass blocking rep, then Dorsey did something wrong. There'll be times where he is one-on-one. So, like, say we're running zone to the left side, they don't care if he's one-on-one with Crosby because the play's going the other way. Because sure, he could beat him and then run down and chase Cook or Harris down. But the hope is he blocks him for just a split second enough for them to get enough space to leave. So I'm sure he'll be one-on-one sometimes. McClinchy was one-on-one a lot with him, but McClinchy's paid like a top-tier tackle. Right. So, and he got worked pretty bad. And, Crosby's going to be a lot. Basically, he could beat anybody. And if there's a pass blocking rep, if he's one-on-one with Spencer Brown, it better be a quick throw because he will get by. He will get by very quick. It's weird how fast he is. I know they're athletes, but he gets in that back no matter what. Like, he could just be like normally, like, okay, I'm on my rush, but all of a sudden it's just like in the blink of an eye, he's already in the backfield. Like, his moves are finesse is just insane. So, yep, don't let him change the game because one strip sack is all it takes. We've seen it happen before against the Jets. We didn't lose that fumble. We got it back, but then we lost the game anyway because of that, essentially. And, if Jacobs gets cooking and then, Max Crosby's cooking, this might be a game where you have to bring Ifedi in and or maybe do what the Raiders do in certain situations and run heavy package and have 6 offensive linemen block. I've never seen in my entire life watching the NFL a heavy package where they had 6 offensive linemen pass blocking. I've never seen that. It was the weirdest thing ever. I said, this can't be legal, but it is. Usually they use heavy package for running, but they brought in I don't know who it was, but there was a couple plays when they were passing, they brought in an extra tackle and all 6 of them pass blocked. And I'd never seen that before in all my years of football. And, it's legal, obviously, but I've never seen it. I'd really never seen it. And, maybe do something like that because let's just hope the Raiders don't get in the red zone where they do that to us because then I feel like that'll be really hard for us to defend with who we got in our personnel. But maybe we do something like that for offense when we're in the red zone or where we're backed up and, at the 25 or something. So if Crosby does get in the, it limits his opportunity to get into the backfield.
100%.
He's such a phenomenal player. He can really change the game.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting at is he's a phenomenal player, and the Bills have to, especially in terms of key matchups, you have to factor him in. He's got to be the guy that, is red hot that you have to factor in. So that's the one person that, in terms of players to watch for the Buffalo Bills on offense, it's got to be Josh Jacobs. And then on defense, it's got to be Max Crosby. So those are the 2 guys I think both of us would agree that are the key matchups for the Buffalo Bills for offense and defense. And then you got to worry about Devontae Adams too. So that's the second guy on the offense that you have to worry about too. But I want to get real quick, Shawn, because we're getting close to that hour and 15 mark. I want to get your score predictions for this game, and hopefully you have a Bills win that's going to happen this week. I imagine you do. I want your score prediction because I know mine's a little bit out there, but I want you to go first with your score prediction for the game.
Well, I hate games like this because we haven't won yet. This is a game where we could easily lose, but it's also a game we could easily dominate. And until we get a win, I'm going to be uneasy. 23-20. No, 23-16. Just like how he lost, basically. Could as blowout potential. But until I'm saying too much, that's not good. But until they prove that they've been back to who we know they are, it might be a game like that. It's going to be close, I think. But like I said, has potential to be like a 38-17 blowout. I don't think it will. I think the Raiders are coming in super pumped up off a win in week 1 in a divisional opponent. They could have lost that game. I mean, the Broncos did miss an extra point and a field goal. So they did kind of get some luck in that win. they still played good. You know, they can come into Buffalo just as easily. I mean, they stayed in West Virginia this whole week, and they did that because the jet lag crap. And Las Vegas is like 3 hours behind, or like 4 hours. I don't know exactly what their time zone is, but they stayed in West Virginia for a week after they were away already. Stayed away from their families, just so they can be ready for this game, and they don't feel, we're a West Coast team playing at 1:00 game on the East Coast. If they flew on Friday night, then we might get a little bit of advantage. But now they've been here since Monday, training and practicing. So I think it'll be closer than people might think. If we come out playing like Buffalo Bills football that we can, it could be really good for us. But if we come out slow like last week, it's got potential to be a super close game. So 23-16, just to be safe.
All right, Shawn. I like that prediction. And, I got to say this, though, because I want to give a little shout out to Mike Fortin, because he got you something that he said that you really needed, which was that pop filter for your microphone that you see on there. It's that little black piece that's right over by Shawn's eyes. And that pop filter has been going off since that segment that he said. He's been using that P word that we had that contest on a few weeks ago on the Nickel City Mafia. He's using that P word, which the P word, if you guys don't know that what we're talking about, is the word potential that he's using. So that's coming out quite a bit. And I got to say, it sounds pretty good that it's coming out of his mouth. But
thank you, Mike.
I want to give him a quick shout out on that. I know he'll appreciate it. But I want to bring up this comment from Trey Williams that he said the Raiders are better than people think. Their offensive line finished 10th last year. Can they force the Bills out of that nickel D? And that's going to be something that we could see this week. And Shawn brought up a really good point about bringing in another linebacker this week, whether that's Kirksey or if it's going to be guys like Dorian Williams getting into the game, because
maybe
if you can do that, then that's going to be the way for the Buffalo Bills to stop the run. If that's the case that they have to do that, then I'm perfectly fine with that. We got to find a way to stop the run, not give up big plays like the 83-yard rush that you saw from Breece Hall. If we can fix those mistakes, then we should be in this game and we should dominate in this game. So I'm going to give you my score prediction, Shawn, for this game. And I thought about it long and hard about how the Bills are going to win. And I thought back to the matchups of the 90s, and the greatest matchup that you saw for the Buffalo Bills against the Raiders is that 51-3. And I had to bring it up because you knew it was coming soon. That 51-3 game to send the Bills to the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to go that far to say the Bills are going to win 51-3. That's not where I'm getting at. But the Bills are going to dominate in this game. So I have them winning 45-17 against the Raiders. 4 touchdown lead that the Bills will have, and they're going to take some of the offensive players out of the game. One of them will be Josh Allen, that they will take out of the game midway through the fourth quarter. But that's going to be how the Bills win this game, and they'll get their first win against Jimmy Garoppolo in their first matchup against Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh Allen. I don't know if you knew that as well, Shawn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That'll be a great matchup that we'll see this week. But I want to thank everyone that is on the channel that has commented and liked this video already. If you haven't commented or liked this video, go into the description and comment, subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia. We already hit our 1,500 goal before the season started. Our next goal is to get to the 2,000 mark as well as the 3,000 mark by the end of the season. So if you can hit that notification button and hit that like button, drop a nickel on that like button, we would greatly appreciate it. For Shawn and myself, Brett, we want to say go Bills, and let's get a win this week. Before we do that, I want to give you guys our outro video real quick and say also real quick that don't forget to go over to the Nickel City Mafia, watch the AFC East Summit show that's coming up on Tuesday, as well as the video that should be coming out tomorrow night with the Sunday show that Mike and Jake will be back for again. So for Shawn and I, in the Red, White, and Ruthless cast, go Bills, and we will see you next week, Saturday, for another edition of the Red, White, and Ruthless. Until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.